Alright guys, this is Erica with Not Your Average EDC, and today we're talking about Swiss Army knives. Specifically, these four models right here. These are all knives that I have used extensively and tested, put through the ringer, and I really enjoy all of them. So we're going to just go over them. I'll tell you what I've used them for, what models they are, and maybe they'll work for you, maybe they won't. But yeah, I like all of these models a lot, and I use them for different things. And actually, somebody on Instagram, well, he has a YouTube channel too. I think his name is Mike, and his channel on YouTube is called Powers Crafts and Carvings, or Powers Carvings and Crafts, something like that. He posts a lot of pictures of one of his Swiss Army knives that he uses often, and it kind of I guess it inspired me to make a video about them, because I've never really done that before, and I use these so often. So without further ado, let's go over all of these. We'll start with the Hiker. So all of these are Victorinox models. This one is called the Hiker. It's just got the basic red scales on it. Sorry for any dirt and grime. They do get used and carried a lot. So you've got your tweezers and toothpick, of course. This is the Swiss Army knife that I bring on all of my hiking trips, hence the name. But it's got a lot of really useful stuff for out on the trails. It does have the pin holder in here, so that's pretty neat. Corkscrew for if you were going to bring some wine or something out on your trip. Maybe celebrate a good hike at the top of the mountain. Wow, this thing is really dirty. But yeah, you've got a corkscrew there. Got a really nice awl if you wanted to do any type of drilling out in the woods. And then up here, small utility blade, your big main blade. And I've noticed that this one in particular is really good for if you bring any like meat and cheese for a snack out on your hike. This is a great slicey blade for that. Any type of carving or whittling, this is the blade you're going to want to use for that, for sure. Marshmallow sticks, little steaks, anything of that sort. Really good blade for that. We do have a very toothy saw in here for processing anything a little bit on the larger side. Obviously not that big, but branches that you couldn't get through with your main blade. You've got a nice toothy saw here, and it works very well. Just be careful, because man, those teeth are sharp. And then we have can opener and bottle opener, screwdriver, useless wire bender that nobody ever uses. But a lot of really good handy tools in a small package to have on a hike, or if you're an avid outdoorsman, anything like that. This is going to be a really good tool to have in your kit, and it's not overbuilt, and it doesn't necessarily have anything that you don't need. It doesn't have any silly things like the parcel holder that they still put on here, the like hook thing that they put on some Swiss Army knives. There's just sometimes stuff that is completely useless nowadays, but this doesn't really have that. These are just awesome tools for the outdoors. Next, we have the Victorinox number 7, otherwise known as the Harvester. This is a knife that I generally only carry in the summer because it's really a farm tool. So we have a different version of the awl here. I prefer this inline awl much more than this one. I feel like you get a lot more leverage and power behind the inline version. Also, this is just designed completely different. It's much more sharp and sturdy, and this is a weapon right here, man. So we have a really nice awl. This is also a great pick for if you're out in the field on the farm or the homestead. That's a really good sharp pick right there. You should be careful using this for sure. Next we have the main blade. The lockup on this model is pretty strong and definitely noticeably stronger than this model. Obviously we have less tools in this one, which is going to affect the springs, but just in general, this is a little beefier than this. I actually believe, I could be mistaken, but I do believe that the blades are not the same, even though these are like the same length, the same size. I believe these blades are a little different in that, yes, this one is actually wider. So in this dimension, it's wider than this one. I believe they may even be different in thickness. Yeah. So although these are the same length, and you would think that they have the same blade, they don't. So this one is a little more hefty. Got a really nice blade on there again. If you're out in the field and you have farm animals, or this is a great blade for processing food for them. This is one that I've used to go out in the garden or to the orchard and grab apples and veggies for the goats and bring them to the goat pen and cut them up with this. Really nice slicey blade. I've also used this for a lot of woodwork out in the field. But the main attraction to the number 7 would be the saw, which is identical to the one on the hiker, and especially the harvesting hook. This is an amazing tool that I wish they would put on more models. This is a curved, double-sided knife, and this is what makes the harvester model a harvester. This is a prime blade shape for processing veggies, cutting any type of vine, fruit, or vegetable off of the vine. This is also a great blade shape for opening packages and hay bales, especially because you've got that little hook and you just kind of bring it under the rope and pop it up, and it's so sharp you don't even put any effort. You kind of just like gently pull it up and it slices right through that twine. Great for processing fruits and peeling. I mean, this blade shape is really useful, and I just wish they would put it on more models. This model alone is pretty rare. I got it straight from Victorinox years ago. I don't even know if they make it anymore, but I wish they did because this is a really handy blade shape. And then we have a screwdriver just like on the hiker. Perfect for prying, scraping. Really nice screwdriver to have out in the field with you. And this set in general is just a powerhouse out on the farm. The only reason I don't carry it more is because it doesn't have the toothpick and tweezers, which I find myself using very often. So kind of a bummer that the ALOX scales don't allow that, but that's where this backup buddy comes in paired with this. That way I do get the toothpick and tweezers. So the Minichamp is packed with tools. Now this one had originally come with red scales that were milled out and had a pen. I didn't like that at all, so I put these titanium scales on from Daily Customs. They're out of Germany. These are really nice scales. I mean, they even have like a serial number. Very, very nicely built. This model did have a keychain on it. It ended up just getting in the way, and I have no use for a keychain ring on this, so I ended up just cutting it off. But let's take a look at the tools. We have toothpick and tweezers, of course. One of the main tools that I use on this almost daily would be the scissors. Oh, and by the way, I think I mentioned this before, but just to reiterate, these are not daily carries. These are not EDC knives. This is what I carry on all of my weekend hikes, and this one is, like I said, just in the summertime, out in the field, on the homestead. I don't really EDC either of those. However, the next two knives that I'll show, I carry genuinely all day, every single day. So we've got really nice scissors. A fantastic inline Phillips, a small one. Super useful. That wire bender thing is not useful, but aside from that, this is really nice. I don't think I've ever used the bottle opener on this because I just don't drink anything that would need to be opened in that fashion. And then we have tiny little pen blade. Again, not something I use very often. It's just too small. But these two tools get used all the time. I use this a lot as well. If I'm waiting in line for something, like I was just at the DMV the other day and I was waiting to get called up, honestly, diddling around with my cuticles. That's something I do with this. The nail cleaner is just kind of a nice thing to have on there in case you're bored. A near useless measurement system. However, that little screwdriver is useful. Sorry about all the dog hairs. If you didn't notice, I have a lot of dogs. 4 of them to be exact, but there's 15 in the house. It's crazy here. Let's see, we got a couple of little blades to go through here. If I can get them open. Oh, it's on this side. Come on. So this is a really neat little tool. I believe on the site they call this an orange peeler or something. So you can peel oranges with it. I'm not sure I've ever done that, maybe once. However, this is a really neat little box and package opener. That is a wicked little blade. And if you are processing something where you don't want to cut into whatever is inside, this will definitely limit you in a good way. Focus. There we go. Really nice, precise little cutter right there. When I was doing the maintenance mechanics at my old job, this is a tool that I would use to cut the tubing fairly often. Any fine detail little jobs, this is a nice processing tool for that. This is also a really neat little tool as well. It's basically a straight edge knife, and although it's about the same size as that blade that I showed a few minutes ago that I said I don't really use, I have used this one just because the straight edge makes it a little razor. And this is really nice as well for fine, precise utility cuts. This is one, you can see it's been used quite a bit. This is one that I used again at one of my old jobs when I was doing line changes. This was a great little razor blade for processing the line changes and the tubing and all that. So a really nice little razor blade of a knife right there. And lastly, We have the nail cleaner. Oh, sorry. I think earlier I called the cuticle pusher the nail cleaner. It's not. That's just for cuticles. This is the nail cleaner. So that this is what you would use to get under your nails, which looks like I could probably use. You do have a little bit of a file on the back of there. It's just, I would say, borderline useless, but that's a cool little tip right there that you could use for all kinds of stuff. So a lot built into a really tiny package. Fairly lightweight. Lighter if you don't put the titanium scales on, but I don't really mind the weight. And I think this just looks so cool after being in my pocket for, a year straight, day in and day out. Just, I mean, this was like stonewash finished or something when it first came in, but almost like a matte finish, and I mean, it's just gone. This has created its own finish in itself over the past year, and what a neat little tool it is. So every day I carry this, but my main attraction for EDC is this old reliable right here. This is the Tinker model, and I have had this, I'm not kidding, for I want to say 7 years. It used to have red scales on it, busted those, put the blue on. These are also kind of busted and falling off. Trying to decide if I want to try to epoxy them back on or just get a new one in general or new scales or something. But these are also completely trashed. I carry this every single day for my work EDC with that Minichamp. Toothpick and tweezers, per usual. I did leave the lanyard thing on here on this one. I find that the lanyard gets in the way of using the tools sometimes, so this is kind of a another test run with this. By the way, this is a bead from Grumpy's EDC. This is a titanium anodized bead that he does. Absolutely gorgeous. And it hides that knot in there really nicely so you don't even see it. Let's look at the tools here. So this is one that I have a love-hate relationship with. I love a good Phillips. I use them all the time. I mean, I can't tell you how often I am screwing screws back into the walls in the house, whether it's on a light switch or an outlet or a door hinge or anything like that. I mean, a good Phillips is just indispensable. However, as great as this is, I don't like the T-drive. You're really limited with this because if you are working on a project, generally speaking, this T-shaped handle is going to get in the way because how often are you actually working on something that's like underneath you where you're moving like this? This gets in the way. So I have used this before hundreds of thousands of times. However, I notice myself reaching for my Leatherman Wave with the inline screwdriver more often just because that T handle just doesn't always work. However, the screwdriver itself is really nice, and like I said, I've used it a bunch. We do have the hidden pin in here again. I need to replace it because this one's really bent up. The pin is something that I would suggest if you don't have one, you should try carrying. So you can buy them in packs of like 5, I think, on Amazon for literally $2. And they just slide right into the scales of your Swiss Army knife, whether you have the normal model or the blue scales, whatever. They're pretty much always drilled out to accommodate the pin. And whether it's for slivers, popping a blister, moving tiny little parts around, that pin is just awesome to have on you. We have that all again here. I've used this for punching leather belts, scoring wood and soft metals, drilling new holes into things out in the yard. I'm actually not even sure. It's pretty toasted. I've used this thing like crazy over the past few years, and it's beat up. But it does still work, and I use it for tasks where maybe I don't want to puncture something per se, but I need a nice point and I don't want to break my knife tip or whatever. This is something I would use. Man, we're 20 minutes deep here. Holy crap, I gotta hurry up. Okay. Can opener, don't use that very often on a daily basis. It's almost something I wish that just wasn't in here. Screwdriver, I have used this an insane amount. Just insane. As a scraper, a pry bar, a screwdriver. Never fails. This thing is absolutely awesome. I don't know what... Oh, that might be paint. Prying paint cans. And, oh, one thing I forgot to mention. The toothpick, I actually use this very often for when I'm working on my knife projects. So... let's see if I've got an example here. If you are doing knife maintenance and you don't take your whole knife apart and you're just, let's say, oiling your washers, okay? So you open this up, you take your pivot screw out, knock that bad boy out, take your blade out, you put some KPL on there, or even better, some Gunny Glide from River's Edge Cutlery. Get it all nice and lubed up. You've got your blade and your washers sandwiched together and you're pushing it back into the rest of your knife. Occasionally, with especially the bug out, because the washers are tiny in comparison to the normal models, I go to put the blade in with the washers and the washers will get a little bit hung up in this area and not come all the way where I need them to. So I use the toothpick from my Swiss Army knife actually as like a shim. And this is perfect and nice and flexible and soft. And you can literally just push those little washers right into where they need to go. Align them back in this area and get your knife put back together. But this is a fantastic little shim to help you adjust where that washer is being put. So, cool little use for your toothpick if you don't mind a little Gunny Glide in your teeth. So, that's something I use very often because I'm constantly working on blades. We've got a really nice main blade. This one is a little rusted. It's just so old. Come on. Focus. There we go. So old, so beat up. This is what I use out in the field and stuff. Again, for if I'm feeding the goats out there, maybe processing some little treats for my dogs. Anything where I need a slicey blade, that's where this comes in. And then we have our little tiny blade here. And that's it on this one. I really like the Tinker because it has what I need and basically nothing I don't. I could totally do without the can opener, but it's really hard to find like a perfect model of Swiss Army knife. I really wish that they could do like custom builds on their site because it's just one of those things where you get so close to just what you need, but there's always something in there that you don't. However, these tools are awesome. So, yeah, that's the Tinker model. I've had this for a crazy long time. I've never really felt the need to try something else in terms of my EDC Swiss Army knife. But yeah, these are some models that I stand behind. I have thoroughly used and abused. And, sorry, my phone is going off like crazy. models that I stand behind. Try them out. Let me know what you think. Let me know down in the comments if you carry a Swiss Army knife and what model you use. And yeah, they're just a cool tool that typically you think of Boy Scouts, but man, these are useful just in the everyday life. Anyway, guys, have an awesome day. Enjoy your weekend. And as always, use your fucking shit. Peace.